The house smelled of fresh paint and unfamiliar promises when Ethan moved in. My dad had remarried, and with that came a new stepbrother, a man who, at first glance, seemed like just another addition to the family. Ethan was older, mid-30s, with a quiet confidence that made him hard to ignore. His presence filled the room, not loud or imposing, but steady, like a heartbeat you didn't realize you were counting. I was 22, still figuring out my place in the world, and Ethan was just there. A stranger I was supposed to call family. At first, I didn't think much of it. He was polite, reserved, the kind of guy who'd offer to help with dishes or fix a squeaky door without being asked. My dad adored him, said he was good stock, whatever that meant. My stepmom, Claire, beamed every time Ethan walked into the room, like he was her pride and joy. And me? I just wanted to get through the awkward phase of blending families without too much fuss. I told myself he was just a stepbrother, nothing more, nothing less, but there was something about him, something in the way his eyes lingered a fraction too long when we passed in the hallway, the way his voice softened when he said my name, Lila. It wasn't obvious, not at first. Just a flicker of something that made my skin prickle like static electricity before a storm. I brushed it off. I had to. We were family now, and anything else was unthinkable, taboo, wrong. Still, the moments started piling up. A brush of his hand against mine when we reached for the same coffee mug. A shared laugh over some dumb joke that felt too intimate, too private. The way he'd lean against the counter, watching me as I chopped vegetables for dinner, his gaze heavy with something I couldn't name. I told myself it was nothing, that I was reading too much into it. But deep down, I knew better. There was a current between us, subtle but undeniable, and it scared me as much as it intrigued me. One night, it was just the two of us. Dad and Claire were out at some charity event, leaving the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint patter of rain against the windows. We ended up in the living room, sprawled on opposite ends of the couch, a half-forgotten movie playing in the background. I don't even remember what it was, some action flick with explosions and predictable dialogue. My mind wasn't on the screen. It was on Ethan, on the way he sat just close enough that I could feel the warmth of his presence, on the way his fingers tapped rhythmically against the armrest, like he was holding something back. "Lila," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. I turned to look at him, and there it was, that look, the one that made my stomach twist and my breath catch. You ever feel like you're not supposed to want something but you do anyway? I froze. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. I should have laughed it off, changed the subject, done anything to break the tension. But I didn't. Instead, I met his gaze, and for a moment the world narrowed to just the two of us. "What do you mean?" I asked, even though I knew exactly what he meant. He didn't answer, not with words. Instead, he leaned closer, just enough that I could feel the heat of his breath. My body screamed to move, to put distance between us, but I stayed rooted to the spot. And then, before I could process it, his lips were on mine, soft, hesitant, like he was testing the waters. Everything in me shouted to pull away, to stop this before it went any further, but I didn't. I kissed him back, and in that moment the line between right and wrong blurred into nothing. After that night, everything changed. The house felt different, like it was holding its breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Ethan and I pretended it hadn't happened. We went back to our routines: breakfast with Dad and Claire, small talk about work or the weather, careful smiles that didn't reach our eyes. But the air between us was charged, heavy with the weight of what we'd done. Every glance, every accidental touch felt like a spark that could ignite everything. I told myself it was a mistake, a one-time thing. We were family, for God's sake. Stepbrother and stepsister. The words felt like a mantra, something to cling to when my thoughts strayed to the memory of his lips, the way his hands had hovered just above my skin, like he was afraid to touch me but couldn't help himself. I tried to focus on other things, my job at the bookstore, my friends, the life I was supposed to be living. But Ethan was everywhere. In the kitchen, making coffee. In the living room, reading one of his dog-eared paperbacks. In my dreams, where I couldn't escape the pull of him. It wasn't just physical. That's what scared me the most. If it was just attraction, maybe I could have ignored it, chalked it up to hormones or loneliness. But there was something deeper, something that made my chest ache when I saw him laugh or when he talked about his childhood, his voice soft and unguarded. He wasn't just a stranger anymore. He was Ethan, complicated, quiet, and impossibly magnetic. We tried to keep our distance. We really did. But the house was too small, the moments too frequent. A late-night run-in in the hallway, both of us half asleep, his hand brushing my arm as we passed. A shared car ride to the grocery store, the silence between us thick with unspoken words. And then, one night, it happened again. We were in the garage looking for some old box Claire had asked us to find. The air was dusty, the light dim, and when our eyes met, it was like the world stopped. This time, there was no hesitation, no pretense. Just us tangled together in the shadows, our breaths mingling, our hands greedy for something we knew we shouldn't have. After that, it was like a dam broke. Stolen moments became stolen hours. Secret meetings in the dead of night, when the house was asleep and we could pretend the world outside didn't exist. Every touch, every whispered word felt like a rebellion against the rules we were breaking. It was wrong, so wrong, but it felt like the only thing that made sense. The guilt was always there, lurking in the background. Every time I saw my dad, his easy smile and trusting eyes, it was like a knife in my chest. Claire, too, she was so kind, so oblivious, treating me like a daughter while I betrayed her in the worst way. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. Ethan was like a drug and I was addicted. The secrecy was suffocating. Every lie I told, every half-truth I spun to keep our secret safe, added another layer of weight to my shoulders. I stopped sleeping properly, my dreams haunted by the fear of being found out. What would happen if Dad knew? If Claire found out? The thought made my stomach churn, but it wasn't enough to make me stop. Nothing was. Ethan felt it too. I could see it in the way his jaw tightened when we were all together, the way his eyes darted to me when he thought no one was looking. We were careful, God, we were so careful, but there were moments when I thought we'd been caught. A glance that lingered too long at dinner, a laugh that sounded too intimate. Once, Claire asked if everything was okay between us, her brow furrowed with concern. I nearly choked on my water, but Ethan was smooth, deflecting with a joke and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The worst part was how normal it started to feel. The sneaking around, the stolen kisses, the whispered promises in the dark. It became our routine, our twisted version of normal. But it wasn't normal. It was a house of cards, and I knew it would collapse eventually. I just didn't know when. It was a Saturday afternoon when things almost unraveled. We were all home, a rare occurrence. Dad was in the backyard grilling burgers while Claire chatted with a neighbor over the fence. Ethan and I were in the kitchen, cleaning up after lunch. It was mundane, domestic, the kind of moment that should have been innocent. But then our hands brushed as we reached for the same dish, and the air shifted. His fingers lingered on mine just for a second, but it was enough to send my heart racing. "Lila," he murmured, his voice barely audible. I looked up, and there it was, that look, the one that made me forget everything else. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me right there, in the middle of the kitchen, with our parents just outside. The thought was terrifying, exhilarating, and I hated how much I wanted it. The sound of the back door opening snapped us out of it. We sprang apart, my face burning as Claire walked in, oblivious to the tension. "You two okay?" she asked, her tone light but her eyes sharp. I nodded too quickly, muttering something about needing to check my phone. Ethan stayed silent, his expression unreadable, but I could feel his gaze on me as I fled the room. That night I couldn't sleep. The guilt was heavier than ever, pressing down on me until I could barely breathe. I wanted to tell someone, to confess and let the truth tear everything apart. But I couldn't. Not because I was afraid of the consequences, though I was, but because I didn't want to lose him. Ethan had become a part of me, woven into my thoughts, my desires, my very being. The idea of letting him go felt like losing a piece of myself. The doorbell rang on a quiet Sunday morning, shattering the fragile peace we'd built. It was Claire's sister, dropping by unannounced for a visit. She was loud, nosy, the kind of person who could sniff out a secret from a mile away. Ethan and I were in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but the tension between us was palpable. Every time our eyes met, it was like a silent conversation, a reminder of what we were hiding. Claire's sister, Marissa, breezed in, all smiles and chatter, but her eyes were sharp, darting between us like she could sense something was off. "You two are awfully quiet," she said, her tone teasing but pointed. My stomach twisted and I forced a laugh, hoping it didn't sound as hollow as it felt. Ethan played it cool, offering her a drink and changing the subject, but I could see the strain in his posture, the way his hands clenched into fists when he thought no one was looking. The visit passed without incident, but it left me shaken. I couldn't keep doing this, living in fear, lying to everyone I cared about. The weight of it was crushing me, and I knew it was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. That night I found Ethan in the backyard, staring at the stars. The air was cool, the house quiet, and for a moment it felt like we were the only two people in the world. "We can't keep doing this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't look at me, but I saw his shoulders tense, like he'd been waiting for those words. "I know," he said finally, his voice raw. "But I don't know how to stop." I wanted to scream, to cry, to tell him that I didn't either. Instead, I took a step closer, close enough to feel the heat of him, the pull that had drawn me to him from the start. "What are we doing, Ethan?" I asked, my voice breaking. It's going to destroy everything." He turned to me then, his eyes dark and tormented. "I don't care," he said, and the words hit me like a punch. "I know it's wrong. I know it's going to hurt people. But when I'm with you, it's the only time I feel alive." I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to run, to put as much distance between us as I could. But another part, the part that scared me the most, wanted to stay, to hold onto this dangerous, beautiful thing we'd created, no matter the cost. Now, as I sit here, torn between love and guilt, I don't know what to do. The truth is a ticking time bomb, waiting to explode. I can't keep living this lie, but I don't know how to let go of Ethan. There's something about him, about us, that feels like it was meant to be, even if it's wrong. I know I can't keep this secret forever. I know the consequences will come, whether I'm ready for them or not. But for now, I'm caught in this tangled web, unable to break free, and I don't know if I even want to.